so much for joining me today. It is barbecue season, and with barbecues come baked beans. So I thought today that we would make just a basic pork and beans recipe that will be a delicious base to your baked bean recipe that you have. Maybe you have a hamburger beans recipe, but this is just the basic recipe. And we're gonna can about 6 to 8 pints of the pork and beans. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, and of course our base is tomato juice or tomato paste. I have tomato paste, and then we're just going to add water to it to thin it out. I'm using things I have in my kitchen, in my pantry. So I'm going to use 2 cans of tomato paste, the 6-ounce cans. And to that, we're going to add 4 cups of water. And to that, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, 4 tablespoons of sugar, and we also have 1/4 teaspoon of cloves and 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. I'll give it an extra good flavor. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to take this over to the stove, and we're going to get it just warm enough to boil. For the beans, we're going to use Great Northern white beans, and already I have soaked them. Actually, what the process was to go ahead and get, it's 2 pounds of beans, and boil them for 2 minutes, and then let them take them off the heat, let them rest in that water for an hour. Drain them, rinse them, and then do it again. With clean water, you boil them then for 3 minutes, turn off the heat, remove them from the heat, let them sit for 10 minutes, drain, and they're ready to be put into the jars with your sauce. So I'm using the Great Northern white beans. You can use just a regular white bean. Just use whatever you have that you like or that you would prefer. So let's go ahead and finish up with our sauce. All right, we've been heating the water in our pressure canner, and while we've been doing that, I have the jars in here preheating. So they are ready now to be filled, and we're filling them about 3/4 of the way. And the confusing process that I described on how the beans were prepared, I'll put in the description box below, but also that leaves the beans al dente, so they're not super mushy, because they're going to cook in the pressure canner for 75 minutes because we're doing pints, but then they're going to sit on my shelf after they're done being canned. So I really don't like mushy beans, and I highly doubt that you do either. So the process is pretty efficient with making sure that you don't get them too done, but just to the correct doneness. I'm just filling them to that top measuring line on the jar. All right, we've got our jars 3/4 full. So let's go ahead and put our sauce in there. All right, there's the sauce, and it has a really nice smell to it with those cloves and allspice in it. We've got our beans in our jars. Now we're going to add onion, and we're just going to divide it amongst the jars equally, or about, I don't know, a good tablespoon. And this was 1 cup of onion chopped. And then before we put our sauce on there, we're going to put some bacon, and I've got it cut about, I don't know, 1/2 inch wide, I guess. I think I'm just going to put like 2 pieces in there. And it's not cooked. Just in there for that flavor. All right. And then we'll put our sauce in here. And if you have a bubble popper, this is a great time to get it out. If not, a plastic knife works great. You're going to want to just work it down in there. So you want that sauce to get down in between your beans. You don't want any air in there. And give it about an inch headspace. So let's put some more sauce in here. And there we have our pork and beans. Those look delicious. All right, let's get them in the canner. And we're going to process them for 75 minutes. We've got our jars all filled, so let's go ahead and put our lids on. And before we do that, we do want to go around the rim of each of the jars with vinegar on a paper towel, just to make sure that there's nothing on there that would cause the jars to not seal. And we've got bacon in there, so we possibly got some fat on the edge of the jar when the bacon was going in, so we want to just make sure and get that cleaned off. Alright, perfect. And then we can just put our lids on here. And our rims just finger tight snug. Not as hard as we can tighten them, but just enough so that it puts pressure on that lid. The water in our can is boiling, or in our canner, so let's go ahead and fill it with our jars here. And again, these are just pints, and so we're going to process them for just 75 minutes. Alright, so there we go. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Alright, I've got the pressure cooker sitting sideways on my stove because the vent is so close to the microwave that I don't want it to vent straight up onto the microwave, so I've got it tilted a little bit. And we're just waiting for that vent to release steam. Once it releases steam, then we're going to time it for 10 minutes while the steam is releasing. And then once it's done, then we'll put the weight on there. It's been 75 minutes and we've turned the heat off of the pressure canner and the pressure has gone down to 0, so we are good to take off the valve or the pressure gauge there and open our canner. And open it away from you so that steam can escape through the back and not towards you. And our beans look great. I'm going to love having these on the shelf, ready for whenever I need to or want to make baked beans. And I like also that they must not be all mushy in there, which is a good thing, because if they were, they'd all be like sinking at the bottom. They look fantastic. All right. So what we'll do is let those cool and wash the lids off, take the rings off, label them so that we know for sure what is in there, and that's it. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I hope that this inspires you to either start canning or continue canning or even trying your own baked beans. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will put the recipe in the description box below. And thank you so much.